brothers and sisters. We'll get that turned off. Thank you so much for joining us. And we will be going over some news stories here. Give me just a moment to get myself completely set up. Looks like we are ready to go. Can everybody hear me okay? Thank you again for joining us. It's always a pleasure to get together with our brothers and sisters all over the earth as we compare some notes. There's some things happening in the earth that are, well, the world is changing quickly, and that's a very good thing. I'm grateful for the changes that, thank you, brother. I'm grateful for the changes that we do see. Many times we don't discern the effectiveness of our intercession. We don't discern the power of prayer. And so when you see certain results, it's neat to be able to take the time to say, hold on a second, these things reflect that the remnant, you all, your shofar blowing, a commandment keeping obedience to Elohim, crying out to his name, is having effect. Remember, he said, the prayer of the righteous man availeth much. Amen and amen. So it is a big deal, and welcome and shalom to all of you who are joining us this evening. We are grateful for every one of you. We are thankful for every one of the remnant. And if you're out there helping people wake up to the truth, helping people wake up to the things going on in the world, I salute and encourage you as a light bearer and a red pillar out there. Good for you. And those of you that are being found faithful to encourage your brothers and sisters to dig a little deeper in any category. It doesn't matter where it is, because whenever they find out that they've been lied to, it starts like a fire, like a forest fire. And that's it. They start looking at everything, and it's a beautiful experience. And it gives you 1,000 new things to talk about, because, of course, now once the casing on the lies are broken, then it creates new conversations and wonderful ways to connect. So I pray that many of these conversations and discussions help with extended family, people that are not quite maybe at the same place you are in your walk, but are starting to ask new questions about the world they live in, about who controls it, about what their worldview is, and how that's affecting their decision making. How many know that if they believe in some prophecies that are satanic or demonic, and they believe in this, and they're putting forth programs and what have you to enact such a thing because they believe this is a good thing, you should know that, right? That's the kind of information that may be affecting your world that honestly, I believe a lot of people aren't aware of just how much actually does affect our world. And so tonight we're going to be discussing a few matters that are happening right now. And many of you, as we discussed over the last several weeks, we talked about China and some of the changes that we're seeing there. And China is exploding with repercussions for the choices that government made and the people there. And they are certainly taking back a lot of that power. And of course, what the world is discovering is that all these people in a quote authority were put in authority, and their authority is derived from the people they govern. No matter what their constitutions are, no matter what it doesn't make any difference. Just ask, all the deposed leaders that found themselves at a horrible end because they didn't realize where the real power was with the people they govern. And so a lot of folks are finding that out, and I think it's a wonderful time for the light to be coming on. Amen. And so in China, a lot of light began to shine, and we started to see a lot of protests and a lot of reaction to the control mechanisms and matrix that were instituted there. And you may not realize this, but the results are starting to show. So China is starting to sort of crack, and I would just encourage everybody to continue to pray for China. To continue to pray for those that are under persecution there, because whenever you do that, you lose against the remnant. You will always lose against those who will. You may win some battles, but you're going to lose that war, because the king is going to respond when they call sincerely upon his name. And those of you that are in Asia, calling sincerely upon his name, continue to believe, because he hears your cry. It's expected that within a few weeks, this is the information that we're receiving, that many of the corona restrictions will be lifted, that public TV broadcasting messages against corona and all that fear porn that's been going on from dawn till dark is basically going to sort of simmer out. And, this is also part of the gaslighting too, folks. So as they act like nothing happened, and they're going to start treating it like the common cold. And, and basically what this indicates is those that were trying to use this mechanism to exercise absolute control over the people, the power that they were trying to accumulate, and what they were trying to pull off has failed. There are too many awakened people. Even the people that were victimized are awakened. And so this is causing massive pushback in every sector. And this is very good. This indicates the power of light. Unfortunately, the numbers don't change. So he said, and he continues to confirm, that he will bring a third part through the fire. And so we're going to see more confirmations of that this evening. But I do think that that's very good news, that we're seeing the changes that are starting to take place in places where the people are being excited by, I believe, the Ruach is causing people to react to what they're experiencing, and as a result, there's been some good pushback and a healthy pushback, if you will. So I do think that is a good thing. And so speaking of Asia and the Greater Asia area, if you will, I'll put this up on the screen very quickly. The new majority, they're calling themselves, the new majority taking shape in Eurasia. And this is coming, of course, out of the Kremlin. So you have to take this with the grain of salt that is appropriate. However, even if it's propagandish, which all of these types of news things are, it still indicates what they're thinking, right? So it still gives us an insight into the thinking of those in other parts of the world, which frankly, we need the benefit of, because I find of all the people on the earth, the people in the West are the most insulated by their propaganda. And we found that out when we went to Israel. So take a quick look at this, the New World Majority taking shape in Eurasia. And this is, of course, according to the Kremlin. Moscow, December 6th, tasks Eurasian countries are forming a New World Majority. So again, be aware of what's going on in your earth that upholds just and universal principles. Kremlin aide Yuri Ashakov said on Tuesday, you can already see that a new powerful constructive force is taking shape on the Eurasian soil, what can be called the world majority, which defends just and universal principles and approaches. Okay, so of course they're pitching themselves against the New World Order, and what we're going to find out is the bad guys, right? So the problem with this is that it's like, good witch and bad witch, they're both witches. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil is still the same tree. So you do have that element. Moreover, according to him, these approaches and principles are quite consistent with the interests of vast regions such as Africa and Latin America. So they're trying to say, hey, not only is this the Eurasia dominant thinking, but in Africa and Latin America, which also do not tolerate, watch this, modern forms of neo-colonialism or the world order based on rules determined by whoever. That is a Western concept of rules-based order, which basically means we want to play chess because we're pretty sure we can outsmart you in our game. And so you're seeing more and more reaction from the world as they are not willing to play anymore. And I think this is really good, because I do believe that what we're seeing right now is great pushback against Antichrist type power that was attempting to exert itself worldwide, earthwide, to take dominion over the entirety of the earth. And so these are cracks in what used to be a flawless system, and it's not flawless anymore, saints. And this is why it's so important you continue to pray, because as it falls down, the people that have invested and have bet on that system, they bet on it. Okay, they invested in it and they bet on it. When they put their money in the Federal Reserve products, or they put their money or their energy into, these types of things, they're counting on them long term to stay alive. So they're in bed with them. And so those are the people that we see in the book of Revelation who weep and howl for their misery, because judgment begins to fall. And we're going to see more evidence of that. Going quickly across the world to Israel, as of course many of you know, and this is just something we're just keeping an eye on. Israel, of course, is in the process of forming a new government, and this government, of course, will be headed by none other than Benjamin Netanyahu, who won re-election, which was a very strong re-election, and he's getting a lot of pushback now from the exiting people. So there's a growing concern in Israel that the incoming administration, with Davir as the national security minister, will turn Israel into what they call a police state, and inserting a national religious leader, Avi Moaz, as deputy minister of the prime minister's office, that will let him strip the education program of what they brought in with their liberal values. And so there's a lot of indication that Israel is also stoking for kind of a its own internal squabbles, if you will, its own civil squabbles going on inside of its own state, which there's also early rumors that migration to the area of Ukraine has dramatically increased, which is kind of interesting to pay attention to. So where that migration is coming from and why, we'll be following that story with great interest. But there are those that do not have a lot of confidence going forward in the long-term prospects of this type of government operating in the Middle East. It speaks to conflict coming up, and that is what a lot of people are now anticipating. So again, just a heads up, just to let you know, because this is sort of like on the back burner, but it's like coming along, and as it does, it may start presenting new challenges in the world. And if you remember, we just covered a story last week concerning Turkey and it identifying terrorists. So again, who gets to define what is a terrorist? If you're listening to the Canaanites, I bet you I know who they would describe as the terrorists, right? So it depends on whose news service you're listening to and what their perspective is. So this theater is going to get hot. We're going to continue to keep an eye on the Middle East, of course, and certainly on Israel. Moving back into more of the global picture that is starting to change. And again, this is one of those things that folks, we as sort of the average folks are sort of just, we're floating along. So take a look at this. Blackstone, which is one of, if not the largest company in the world. I think it's actually the largest company in the world. Let me put this on screen real quick. And it began to urge its investors to keep clients calm, right? So everybody stay calm, please. Stay calm. This was in early December, okay? So like, everybody stay calm. Investors are already concerned about their investment portfolios, right? What did I warn you guys was going to happen? Well, let's take a quick look here. Another Blackstone fund just hits redemption limits. Now, what this means is, this is fancy way of saying the ability to withdraw their funds, right? Investment advisors and portfolio managers who plowed money into Blackstone's giant real estate fund were greeted with an unexpected email last week from the investment management company. This is the biggest one there is, right? To keep clients calm as redemption limits on the funds were hit. Now, a similar investment fund focused on corporate debt has also hit its redemption limit. That means nobody get no more money for you. So what you thought was investment that was doing really good, they were sending you those little cool statements, and you were getting, that great information that's telling you you're doing really great, except when you went to withdraw it. And what did I warn you all? Okay. I warned you all that they were just playing with you, that this was just a big joke to them. And what are you going to do? 1 out of 100 of you might get an attorney and actually do them harm, and they'll take their chances. They've done the math. And even if one of you gets a big win against them, ooh, they don't even care. They're that wicked. And they don't care what they've done to you in the meantime. This is heartless stuff. They just see it as assets on a piece of paper, right? This is what they see. They see billion here, billion there. What they don't see is 43 years working at a plant, 26 years and finally retired after, hard enduring, self-employed. They put their money into this with the intent to retire. They need that money now to get where they need to go, and that's not available. And they can't redeem it, and they can't pull it out, and they can't sell it because everybody who now knows it's a toxic asset, they're going to want it. So its value is dropping quickly. When they freeze an asset, when they freeze something, when they no longer let you redeem it, it means it's no longer of any value. You understand? So this is like huge news. And I know that for most people, it's not something that would pay a lot of attention to, but this is going to affect everybody because this will ripple down to the average guy very quickly and in a very brutal way, because we rely too much on big everything. Okay, we have become a society that relies on big everything. So add any name you want to the other side of that. Big food. We rely too much on big food. So big food's going to get affected by this. Big food's going to affect the average person because the average person's too reliant on big food. You can add anything else you want to add to that. Big pharmaceuticals, big air, big water, big everything. Okay. We've got so much work to do to replace these verticals. So basically repent for giving these folks this kind of authority in our life. Big ag, big farm, exactly. We have a lot of repentance. We got to really back away and say, you know what? On second thought, going to get my chickens, going to get my own place. I gotta disconnect from you guys because I can see where you're taking us, and you're taking us to poverty because that's the place your power is greatest. The more maneuverability we have, the less we are subject to their crazy, and they know that. And so that's why they're going to do that. And you're going to see more evidence of this here. By the way, I just heard a rumor that that another $2 trillion of Pentagon money went missing. I need to confirm that, but that's what the rumor was. But take a quick look at this. There's a dollar debt in FX swaps and forwards that's missing and growing. This is, again, an absolute a scandal in the making. This is talking about trillions of dollars that are just not even on the balance sheets. Okay. So FX swaps, forwards, currency swaps create forward dollar payments obligations that do not appear on balance sheets and are missing in standard debt statistics. Non-banks outside the United States owe as much as 25 trillion in such missing debt, up from 17 trillion in 2016. Non-US banks owe upwards of 35 trillion. Much of this debt is very short-term, and resulting rollover needs make for dollar funding squeezes. And the policy responses to such squeezes include central bank swap lines that are set up in a fog with little information about the geographic distribution of the missing debt. What that's a fancy way of saying is they're playing some games with big dollars, and it's finally hitting the light. The problem with that is this is like playing musical chairs with huge amounts of money. When the music stops, whoever country's currency was being played with falls like a rock out of the sky. So the light coming on in this world, unfortunately, is not going to be in the short term. It's going to cause massive repercussions in the short term, things that affect your world. Like we've talked about cargo coming into the United States and how that was affecting it and will continue to affect what's available in the store. If it couldn't get through Long Beach, for example, suddenly things that were there weren't available and you ran out of things. If they won't take the money, for example, they won't allow you to use the dollar and you have to swap into something else. That also starts to create problems. But for there to be this much in off-book debt, so this is not debt that's in their books, but they still have the obligation as a debt. This is humongous. This is a back-breaking revelation. This may take a while to matriculate, okay, through the mental processes that it has to go through. But let me just warn you ahead of time. This here, right here, this piece of information that they're holding that much debt outside of the books, it's the death blow. Too many minds will crack with that understanding. So you should begin to, again, make your plans accordingly to you need to think about and pray about what to do to stay in front of what they're doing. Because again, you're involved in and watching like a massive level of manipulation going on right now in front of you. And we saw a big run up. There was huge pressure on especially Western governments to come up with large amounts of money for dealing with the pandemic, which Messiah prophesied would come. So we knew that there would be pestilence in the last days. This is why he instructed us on making Shemen Raphael, because we were in front of that and we lost none as a result. Meanwhile, these folks, they have to go recover billions of overpaid benefits as a result. So they got pummeled by comparison, the money that they had to put out, and it failed, but some 4.6 billion in Canadians relief ended up in ineligible hands, and they're running out of time to recover those funds. So basically this heist, they're most likely going to get away with it because they doled out over 212 billion in direct emergency measures for Canadians. So they did not manage that money very well. So let's see, we got trillions over here. Here we've got the audit found that about 2.3 billion in overpayments have been recovered through voluntary repayments, but that left that 27.4 billion that have found to be overpaid. So how'd you like those guys running your checkbook, right? Look, they just go ahead and overpay these benefits out, and these are the same folks that want to take a close look at you if you receive more than $600 in your Cash App. Just saying. So this is scary stuff, folks, that they can blow this kind of money on this kind of crazy and then turn around and expect the average person to bear that burden. The average person is reacting like never before. Okay, and I'm going to show you why the average person is reacting like never before, because the average person doesn't have any more to give. Like, they have milked them for all they have. And now nearly 70% of Americans are struggling to pay their grocery bill. They're not able just to get the groceries. Okay, and more than 2/3 of Americans, and again, notice the numbers, so that's interesting. All right, so you said you bring a third part through the fire, so don't you find it interesting that more than 2/3 of Americans are having a hard time affording groceries as food continues to soar, costs continue to soar, according to new data? And retail technology platform Swiftly reported Wednesday that 69% of shoppers say they are struggling to pay their grocery bills after months of persistently sky-high inflation. And wait till the unemployment hits. If you think that inflation is the only thing you're going to deal with unemployment levels too. The study has pointed to shifts in consumer behavior. Some 74% of those surveys said they had changed their shopping habits in the last year, and 33% say they're now shopping in store more than in years past. And and the average everyday essentials is elevated across the board this year. Wow, what a shock. Are we all surprised? Famine's coming. Famine's inbound. We warn. We continue to warn. It's going to continue to get outrageous. Grow your own food. Get out of these systems. This is not a success. Long term, it's a bad place to invest. Short term, we get it. Run up and grab what you need. Okay. Short term, absolutely. Take advantage. Absolutely. Absolutely. But think long term. Or does this have long term written on it, or does this have catastrophe written on it? You know, this is only going to last for so long before it is what it is, and people are going to find out, unfortunately, that this was orchestrated. And this is what's crazy is that they got millions and billions of dollars for nut stuff that nobody wants or needs, right? But relief for the average person, they can't find that money. Okay? Hey, yeah, they can't find those trillion. There's something wrong in Mudville when they can't find the trillions of dollars to help their citizens through a rough patch, but they can find trillions to prop up these fake companies, okay, and create situations. Watch this now, where you're inciting and encouraging there to be an increase in crime. I mean, you don't have to be a statistical scientist. You don't have to be an anthropologist. You don't have to be a crime statistician to know that if you create certain conditions, you're going to increase petty crime, theft, retail crime. I mean, it's just sort of basic common sense. And so that's exactly what they've done. They've set up the world and continue to set it up to create a sense of desperation, lots of fear porn, right? And make people then justify decisions to do harm and to take what doesn't even belong to them, okay? And here, so now in perfect Hegelian dialectic, okay? Problem, what is it? Problem, reaction, solution. Is that how that works? Problem, reaction, solution, right? So they create the problem because they already have a solution and they want to sell you the solution, but they know that you won't buy the solution unless you have such a problem, so bad that problem, reaction, solution. There it is. That the problem is so bad that we must react. We must respond to this, and they put on like a cape and they act very noble, like they're coming to your rescue, right? To solve a problem they created. So this is the crazy part. And here we go. Watch this, because here's how they're going to fight it. Ready? New ways to fight retail crime. Retail crime's on the rise. You need to tell Congress to act, and watch what they're telling them to do. It's curb the sale of stolen goods. So watch how they're going to do this. The individuals that drive the increase in retail crime are part of criminal enterprises. They're not people robbing to feed themselves. No, they've lumped everybody in. You're all part of a criminal conspiracy, and you're all going to rush to eBay to sell your stuff. Watch this. And that steal large quantities of merchandise and later convert the stolen goods to cash. These stolen items are sometimes sold on online auction sites and marketplaces with their origins not properly verified. So criminals might use these platforms. So in order to really deal with this problem, reaction, solution, right? To curb the sale of counterfeit goods and stolen merchandise, bipartisan legislation called the Informed Consumers Act. Oh, wow, doesn't that sound good? Introduced by senators, blah, 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 and blah, 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 would require online marketplaces to verify the identity of high-volume third-party retailers. Do you guys see what they're doing? You see what's going on? They're tightening the digital prison. So we warned about this in the 90s. We warned about this going back, us old-time preachers, right? And in the 80s, you heard and read books. They warned about the new age. They warned about the digital economy. They warned about the cashless society, because with it comes complete control. When they have the ability to look, because after all, they're just protecting you at every transaction and everything, they basically, by inverse, have control of every transaction because they can deny it. How many of you have had plenty of money on a card? You're standing at a counter and you swipe your card and the card doesn't go through. And it's the card that you counted on. Okay. You were planning on this, like you had this all planned out. And that's the card you made sure that the balance was clear and whatever. And for reasons unknown, they've decided non-protunctly that they're not going to let you use that card today. How many of you have ever experienced that? Well, I have. And it's a very disempowering feeling. It's a very demasculating feeling if you're a man and you're trying to get through an airport and get a rental car or take care of your family in some way or pay for dinner. And all of a sudden your devices for payment do not work. This has more than just a financial effect. It's demoralizing. It has a very serious emotional effect on the person who expected to be able to use a mechanism, and now that mechanism is not available. Don't underestimate what they're doing. It's psychological warfare. It's not just financial. It's also psychological. So they're messing with your head. They're messing. She's having law school flashbacks. They're messing with your mind because they love to gaslight. This is all part of a psyop, and we're in it. We're in a caught between two opinions psyop. That's what tribulation is a mind game. Okay, that is, I mean, it's being simplistic, but I'm not wrong. You know, it is a mind game, and it's meant to halt you between two opinions, so you're not sure which way to go. And how do most people get hurt? When they're not sure which way to go, right? And why are they needing these distractions? Why do they suddenly, and you're going to see more things being used for distractions? Well, because their ongoing deception, the wheels are starting to fall off. We knew it wasn't going to last forever. Sooner or later, people are going to start to figure out, and I'm not reporting this. This is on Zero Hedge. Okay, look at this. They're saying these deceptions are now being revealed. I didn't know this. I'm reading this going, really? Look at that. How do you like that? And so are a lot of other people, and saying, wow, this was mishandled by global elites and it severely eroded the confidence in expert opinion. You think? New information is emerging that senior officials doubted the policies that were foisted upon the American public. And again, this is not news to those in the remnant and those in the red pill community and those that have been awake for some time. You knew this for years. They just now pretending. They're going, they ignored the experts who were telling them this. And we should all be looking at even these reporters like this. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are you sure? You're acting real indignant now. Where were you a couple years ago? Okay, Mr. Tyler Durden or whatever you are. You know? Like they're all gaslighting you. It's exactly, sister. They're all participating in the gaslight show. Exactly. There's gaslighting going on everywhere, and it's on both sides. So please don't buy. You know, when we say red pill, we're referring to, you know, take the red pill and we tell you the truth, regardless of where it takes us. We're not saying political party, just to be clear, because political parties are both two wings of the same bird from what we can see. And in fact, starting to wonder which one's worse. Starting to wonder and seeing more evidence that we may have more wicked on the other side than you thought you had. Just saying. So everybody who thinks that the answer to the problem is all, you know, these guys are going to take care of these guys, we always fall for this and it never turns out. So we need to be a little smarter about that going forward. Amen and amen. So they're now admitting that they lied about these mandates. How many know that that's now bringing the heat? Why are they backpedaling? So what's going on? What did you guys do? What you do? Remnant, what did you do? What you do, Remnant? Did you blow the horn? Okay. You start to pray. You shining light. Now they're running scared. Now look. Big shots. Hot dogs. Big time. Big in charge of everything. And now they're suddenly scared. What's going on? You know what's going on? It's called light. It's called the light is starting to shine, and it's shining in a way that they did not plan on. You even got political people. Look at this. He plans to hold certain people accountable for making false claims about their shots. What? You got a whole governor. A governor. What's wrong, governor? He's a little upset. Okay. And they have good reason to be upset because, of course, he's going to hold them accountable for making false claims about products that have then since gone on to cause injuries and death, which is provable. This is a governor saying this, so this is not me or my opinion. I'm reading this, and this is what's being reported. So this is interesting news to say the least, because this is now showing the effect of the persistence of those who refused to buy lies, who held fast to the truth and then exposed it. The liars didn't win because the truth continued to prevail. The gates of hell did not prevail. All right, so the gates of hell failed, and now the gates of hell are suffering. And there's a reason why he's this upset, and I don't blame him, right? Because this was sent to me by my sister Octavia. Thank you again, Octavia, our in-house news reporting station. And we have a second World Cup journalist who dies suddenly. So what's going on here? A second journalist covering the World Cup in Qatar died Sunday, just hours after American journalist Grant Wall passed away. Now we've got two journalists, and this is again reflecting on the spiritual dynamics that are in play to try to create cover and darkness where light is shining. So there's pushback against that light, but now what happens when they push back is you end up with 10 times more light. So the light that they thought they were going to put out by harming whoever they harmed will now create more light. So this is going to continue to backfire on all darkness. The kingdom of darkness has no place to go, and this is going to continue to get difficult for them, and they know that. They know that, which is why they will stop participating, and they will no longer show up to answer your questions. They will refuse to testify before your panels, and they'll tell you there's no further information to share, and they will bail out on you. And next thing you know, you will hear rumors that they have resigned and run off maybe to Israel or somewhere, which is why we're keeping an eye on all of these developments as a whole and not just one thing or another, because it all ties together. All right. All of it ties together. And by the way, now we know that we're dealing with masters of deception, of duplicity, those who have ruled with manipulation of the masses in every way. So for their last trick, or for at least one of their exiting tricks, it would seem to me that if you really want to make a clean escape, you might want to make sure that all the lights go out. And this is what has me very concerned about this. I believe there's a very big reason why I am lit up in my ruach about this issue, because someone is purposely sabotaging power plants across the country. And I didn't realize how bad this is getting. Someone has been attacking power plants all over the country, and the federal authorities are trying to determine who it is. In recent days, we've seen significant sabotage on both the East and West Coast. So it can't just, we reported just on one, remember guys? Okay, and I told you we were going to watch this. Well, watch this, look at this. And so it can't just be one individual that is responsible, because look at this, during the first 8 months of the year, there were a total of 106 attacks. That is an organized thing. That is not some random employee who didn't get a severance check. That is not just a disgruntled employee in one plant here or a guy who got fired or who didn't get the shift he wanted. Are you following me here, saints? That is concerted effort. That is intentional, and it is probably probative to see what response times are, what effects occur, where it affects it, what does go down. They're learning. This is highly dangerous, and it is right in our faces. Yes, it is quite blatant. So this is why pursuing alternative energy and alternative energy support sources is critical in this hour. I don't care who you do that with. I don't care where you go. I don't care if you get yourself a whole mountainside of solar panels. I don't care. You need to have solutions, and I don't think you should have just one. I think you should have multiple redundant systems going forward. Somebody was asking me questions about our system and the things that Elohim has given to us. And I told them point blank, I said, ours is amazing. There's some amazing things that we have, but I would still buy a universal uninterruptible power supply, or I would still have, battery banks. I would still multiply that as much as possible, because you just don't know what you're going to run into in the years to come. And you just don't know what limits that right now you think you might have enough power, and then you might find out later on and you go, oh my goodness, I need a lot more. I need a lot more electricity than I realized, and I use more than I realized. And that's one of the things that I see, the tactic that's used is make you dependent by making something cheap. Okay. So they sell it to you cheaply enough so that it doesn't give you an incentive to buy anything or to fix the problem, but expensive enough for it to be profitable. So it's like they try to find that sweet spot. They don't want to incentivize you to the point where you're like, I'm spending too much money buying this, I may as well replace it. They don't want to go that far. So they tend to try to sit in that spot where it's just under cost effective. And that's why we can't let them determine that, because that's just all a ruse meant to make you dependent and make you lower your guard in an area that you should never have lowered your guard. Should never have lowered your guard. Americans, especially with the ingenuity that we have in the United States, amazing creativity, amazing problem-solving skills. And we stopped applying those problem-solving skills to making amazing communities and making amazing places to live and work. And instead, we started building pyramids. And we started working with these Nephilim companies that were running a Nephilim-ordained Babylonian money magic system, which in the weeks to come, we're going to unwrap a lot of that. And you're going to see how it was all connected, in this system of financial control is nothing new under the sun. This is exactly the same mechanisms they were using thousands of years ago. And whenever he judges them, they have to go dig it back up out of the dirt. I'm telling you right now, go ahead and take a look and see where you find Nineveh or Babylon or Pompeii or any of these great cities. You'll find them. You'll need bulldozers to find them. They're under the ground. They need to be dug up because Elohim judged them. And in the same way that he judged those cities, these great empires of the past, he will judge what is happening right now. And he's doing it in such a way that you're able to see it and not be deceived. So, it's one thing to just take care of it for you. It's another thing to do it right in front of you where you're hot mad about what they're doing. When you can watch banks steal people's money in China and go, what? You guys just suspended their withdrawal privileges? What does that mean? Wait a minute, break that down for me. You can't get your money. And I love the euphemisms they use. I love the way they try to tell people we have reached our withdrawal limit. No, our redemption limits. Our redemption limits we have hereby reached our redemption limits. I'm sorry, you'll have to come back some other time. I got $1 million. I'm sorry, we've reached our redemption limits. And now all you have is a piece of paper. Now all you have is a piece of paper, which if you could get it back, oh boy, if I could just get that back, I would honor Elohim. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't, because when you were given that opportunity, you didn't. Now you're just in negotiating. This is one of the stages of grief. You're negotiating. And you're thinking by negotiating, you'll get a favorable. Now, he already tried that with you. He already tried that. And there's some people that still right now have their assets. They won't have them long because Elohim's judgment is upon them. And this is exactly what was prophesied to come. This is why those who thought that they could put their faith and trust in financial systems that were built by the beast made a foolish error. And they trusted in the deceitfulness of riches. This is what I had to walk away from. I learned a lot about the way this system works. I learned too much. And the more I saw behind the scenes how exactly money was made, I walked away. And I became that merchant who sold oil so he could get that pearl of great price and walk up a hill. And I have a horn today that I couldn't have purchased with any amount of money. The only way that I could get that horn was being willing to let go of everything and walk up a hill and petition my Elohim for your Jubilee. And so I'm very grateful that you, the remnant, are also getting free from this Babylonian money magic. You know how much of people's time it has taken? People have doted over. They have lost friendships, relationships over money they ain't even going to be able to withdraw. I mean, wow. And can you imagine going down? You have it in your checking account, your savings account. You thought it was right there. Like, that's like right next to your bedside, isn't it? Isn't that like right next to your bedside? Yeah, if it's a few $100s or a few $1,000s. But when you go try to take significant amounts out, see what happens. I dare you. Go ahead and transfer me. I'll transfer it back if you want to test it. I promise you, you'll have a lot of trouble sending it to me. They will be like, why? What are you doing? No, don't you dare. Don't help them. Okay, there's war against the remnant to keep us from having any strength because they want us under their thumb so bad they will walk over all the rest to get to the remnant. They will trample down 2/3 just to try to get that 1/3. They will abuse 2/3 to try to take the blessing from the blessed. But I promise you, you will never see the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. Somebody say amen. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure. I'm always grateful when you take the time. May Elohim bless you in your home. Shalom and good evening.